On this episode of China Uncensored, it's that time of year again. Time to walk the dog. Not like that. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. Every year, there's a dog-eating festival in southern China. You may have heard of it, the Yulin Dog Meat Festival. But back in May, Chinese animal rights activists announced that after many years of protests, local officials had finally told them that this year they were banning dog meat sales ahead of the festival. Victory! And that's it. Thanks for watching this episode of... Just kidding. It turns out there's been a bit of a misunderstanding. What officials actually meant was that the festival would continue as normal, dog meat sales unbanned. But don't worry. Officials and the dog meat vendors reached a satisfactory agreement that should satisfy the millions of people around the world who object to the festival. Vendors and officials reached a compromise, setting a limit of 2 dogs displayed per stall. See, a 2-dog limit is almost as good as a ban, right? Only 2 dogs per... Okay, so that limit was ignored. But at least some vendors changed their signs, so instead of saying dog meat, it said tasty meat. Much better. Calling something tasty definitely makes people think it's tasty. About 10,000 dogs are killed every year for the Yulin Dog Meat Festival. And every year, it causes a huge international outcry because, well, puppies are only cute when they're dressed as food. But perhaps you're like my favorite state-run media, the Global Times, and ask, what's the big deal with eating dog? I mean, Americans slaughter almost 10 million pigs per month. This is a case of us American imperialists demanding non-Westerners change their eating habits because they think their cultures and feelings deserve more respect than others. Such a condescending attitude is not comfortable. Well, Global Times, it's not so much the fact that they're eating dog meat that bothers most people. It's that the dogs are tortured and boiled alive because there is a belief that the adrenaline released through the pain makes the meat more tender and provides health benefits. Right. But even if you believe in the supposed health benefits of eating tortured animals, you still might want to stay away, because most of these dogs are slaughtered in disgustingly unsanitary conditions, and a lot of them are extremely sick. So yes, we American imperialists, with our humane... What's that, Shelley? Do I know how factory farm chickens are killed? Electrified water? Throat-cutting machines? I'm never eating drumsticks again. Well, point taken about factory farming, but at least animals in factory farms aren't tortured for the specific purpose of making them tastier. But more importantly, there's this one other fact, and I don't think this happens in America.
About 90% of the dogs are stolen off the streets and stolen from people's yards. So a lot of the dogs that we rescued have actual collars on still.
Can't we all agree that stealing other people's pets, torturing them, and eating them is deeply uncool? But before you start accusing Chinese people of being dog-eating barbarians, I have to tell you, dog-eating is really not mainstream Chinese culture. In fact, Chinese people are some of the loudest voices calling for an end to the Yulin Dog Meat Festival. In fact, throughout most of Chinese history, eating dog was considered distasteful and not at all common practice. A lot of Chinese people really love dogs, and in China today, pet ownership is on the rise. So it's little wonder people are kind of upset about their pets being stolen, boiled alive, and then eaten. Now you'd think the local government ought to do something about this. Well, remember, local officials are the ones who came up with the compromise that vendors could display at most 2 dogs, a regulation that wasn't even being adhered to. And what about all the protests? The government's response to the protests has been to either crack down on activists or simply ignore the problem.
What has the Yulin city government done? They covered it up. Firstly, they don't mention this extremely sensitive word anymore. And secondly, they haven't prevented the killing of dogs or the selling of their meat. They just require that businesses selling dog meat in the market cover up the words dog meat on their signs.
And yes, if it doesn't say dog meat on the signs, then no one will know that the meat at the Tasty Meat Festival is actually dog. It's a foolproof plan. But each year, the Yulin Dog Meat Festival brings controversy and tons of bad publicity to Yulin. So why doesn't the local government stop it? Well, because it relates to an even greater issue the Communist Party wants to cover up: poverty. Yulin is in Guangxi, one of the poorest regions in China. There is a huge number of people who can't find jobs, and many families struggle to make ends meet. According to The Independent, many of the dog meat sellers are peasants or farmers on a low income. These people rely on dog meat to raise money for their families. The festival draws in big money for local meat traders. So for these people, the choice is grinding inescapable poverty or stealing people's pets and making some money at the Yulin Dog Meat Festival. A mainstay of party propaganda is that the Chinese regime has liberated people from poverty. The party definitely does not want the desperately poor rural masses questioning that. But how do local officials keep up the money-making festival but get rid of the bad publicity? Well, local officials came up with a brilliant plan. They tell animal rights activists on the down low that they're going to ban the sale of dog meat. That makes headlines. Then Yulin gets lots of good publicity that the dog meat festival is over, and then, once the protests die down, bam! It's hot dog season. Hot dog season? Wait a minute. I've got an idea. One that could save Yulin's economy and stop the dog meat industry. What if instead of the Yulin Dog Meat Festival, they change it to the Yulin Hot Dog Festival? Locals can stop killing pets and start making sausages. Nathan's could sponsor it, and they'd get tons of great publicity. Think about it. Yulin, home to the world's biggest hot dog. And even we American imperialists wouldn't be able to say anything bad about the festival, since we have our own sacred hot dog traditions passed down through tens of years. So what do you think of the Yulin Dog Meat Festival or the future Yulin Hot Dog Festival? Leave your comments below. Thanks for watching this episode of China Uncensored. Remember, China Uncensored is possible only because of support from viewers like you. If you want to keep seeing more great episodes like this, please go to our Patreon page where you can contribute, for example, $1 per episode. Every bit helps. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Chappell. See you next time.